Good evening. How are we all tonight? Everybody feeling good? Everybody relaxed? Uh, Everyone's watching Demon Mama, let's be perfectly frank. I don't have any Keffels. I don't have any Keffels related content for you because, to be perfectly honest, there's nothing to be said about Keffels that hasn't already been said. Um, and I get why Demon Mama's talking about it, and she probably has to, all things considered. But she's held a 1,000 person audience now for about 6 hours, which is pretty damn impressive. So, not much in the way of news tonight. If you looked on the news today, you saw that the Israelis and their supporters were throwing an epic fit over Ireland, Norway, and Spain deciding to recognize Palestine as a nation. Excuse me. And arguing that doing so rewards terrorism. And I think this is an interesting take. You know why? Because Israel itself was comprised of terrorist groups before they became a country. In fact, after they were founded as Israel, those terrorist groups became the IDF and Mossad. Hi, Maya. Are you on sub from Dima Mama? Yeah. I'll be honest. You have to respect people who can, the Mark Rober types and the Demon Mama types, who are able to just, go off for 3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time, and then come back and get like everyone to watch their stuff. Though that's pretty impressive. Not gonna lie. The uh back to the Israel stuff. So I put out an announcement kind of statementy thing today on Discord, kind of explaining that like this is a good thing. Uh, it means that there's going to be more and more countries that are avenues for Palestine to find a an actual honest broker when it comes to establishing peace, and it puts more pressure on Israel to deal with Palestine in a different way. Um, here's kind of the truth of Israel in a nutshell: is Israel has always existed as a patron with a patron power, first the United Kingdom and then the United States, and kind of like the threat behind the threat, so to speak. And the other half of the problem is that the principal participants in the peace process have never really had Palestine's interests at heart. So Israel's never really felt inclined to engage with the peace process because no one's going to make them in any real sense. They can make an offer that's totally unacceptable and then insist that this is the sticking point, which is what they would do in the early 2000s when they were doing those peace negotiations with Israel or with Palestine, excuse me. Now there's like options and so things have changed, I think. This isn't an immediate fix to the crisis. It's not going to stop the people dying today, and I know a lot of people want that, but it is going to cause the possibility to have a long-term solution. Because before Israel could kind of have these conflicts flare up, hit the Palestinians hard, and kill a lot of people, and then the conflict dies down, and they go back to the low-level background oppression that you see in the West Bank and in Gaza pretty commonly. This time, when they did this reaction to October 7th, this time everyone's paying attention. And it's not going away, and they're making a pig's breakfast of the whole thing. And Israel is losing ground. And like their strategy for Palestine is I think always been to try to make Palestine go away because they want that territory. But it's really hard to outright, deport 5 million people or drive them out. So they have this flare up, the conflict intensifies, the situations in the West Bank and Gaza grow worse, which makes another conflict intensify down the line. And I can't imagine that the Israelis are unaware of the connection between the repression in the occupied territories and the violence that happens. So that still allows them to get through and to kind of do little tiny bursts of damage to Palestine. And if more people are paying attention, if more people are recognizing Palestine, if they're doing these things for longer, and they're watching, and Israel no longer gets away with it, the timeline in which they have to have their way with Palestine grows shorter and shorter, and that means they run out of options eventually, right? They have to now start to negotiate in good faith because they no longer have the opportunity to do a short spurt of violence and then wait 2 years. So that's really why this is a positive net development. And Israel and their supporters didn't take it well. They accused these countries of being neutral during the Holocaust, which is wild because most of them wouldn't have known anything about the Holocaust. And Norway was invaded by Germany and its citizens subject to the Holocaust. And also, Norway was on the side of the Allies pretty decisively after they got invaded, which was happened with most countries. And they said that we're rewarding terrorism, and which was just incredibly ironic when you consider that Israel was rewarded for their terrorist activities with the state of Israel built into the British Mandate of Palestine. And it was just a buck wild day. Uh, I woke up this morning and I looked on Twitter and I'm like, Eventually I rallied and got into the business of the day. But I looked at that and I was not at all enthralled with the concept of having to listen to people talk about things they don't understand today, or to manipulate things. And uh, you gotta wonder. You just gotta wonder is if this cause is just so very righteous. Why pro IDF supporters gotta lie all the time? Because you saw the other big item of the day is the Israeli Twitter account releases this video of Hamas apparently talking about a number of women prisoners. And they're then turned into a 7-hour discourse about whether or not a particular Arabic word carries a particular connotation with regards to violence against women, with a whole bunch of native speakers going, no, it doesn't. This is a regular everyday word that applies to women, and or a regular word that applies to women who are captured, either or, and then a whole bunch of people insisting that it has some insidious other meaning. And of course, that was the objective that Israel had, right? Put out something incredibly inflammatory, have people fight about that instead of people fighting about whether or not Norway and Spain and Ireland are right to recognize Palestine. And Netanyahu also kicked this off by deploying a couple thousand troops into an area in the West Bank to act in support of settler violence. So he's not getting out of those crimes against humanity charges anytime soon. Oh, that's the other one. We here in the United States are going to be sanctioning the International Criminal Court probably. That'll look really good for us when we turn around and insist that Russia get out of Ukraine again. That'll look really swell. Uh, they're quite upset that they're being mentioned in the same breath as Hamas's leaders. And the argument went something along the lines of, well, you can't compare a democratically elected country defending itself to a terrorist organization. Why is this news a big deal? It is different from this month. 143 of 193 members of United Nations General Assembly voted in favor of Palestine joining the UN, something only states can do. It is a big deal because Europe has very traditionally strongly been in Israel's corner, or at least indifferent to to what Israel is doing. The United Nations has this kind of dual system going on, where they have countries and they have the General Assembly and the Security Council, and so the General Assembly and the United Nations will oftentimes make a very perfunctory decisions about things they want to do, which will be vetoed by the Security Council, one of the five permanent members, in this case, the United States. And then it's kind of like I put forward originally. It's not an immediate fix, but it means that in the long term there are more potential honest brokers. Because if you look up what countries have recognized Palestine, it's traditionally countries in Africa who themselves are have had problems with and dealt with the after effects of colonialism, and it's countries in Asia and South America. None of these places, with the exception of Russia and China, none of these places have permanent seats on the Security Council. So they don't have, and because each of the principal five get a veto, they don't have the ability to override that. This means that there are growing support in Europe for a Palestinian state. The other half of this news is that France might join them, which would be a huge blow diplomatically to Israel. And overall, it's a sign that the perception of Israel is changing worldwide. People are aware of what they're doing, and they find it unacceptable. And Israel's ability to act with impunity goes away. Now they have to be aware of the consequences of their actions in a way that they never have had to be before. Does that answer your question?
The amount.
No worries. So I don't want to belabor this point too much. I thought we'd talk about this for a little bit. I'm working on kind of this economics thing because I saw a really interesting tweet about that. Public perception of the economy versus what actually is happening with economic indicators. And I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there. But I'm not ready to have that conversation yet because I want to take a better look at the consumer price index, because I have a general impression of the problem that with the consumer price index and why it's not reflective of the actual prices we're paying as members of the everyday economy. But I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about before I talk about it out loud. With that, I wanted to check out Westside Tyler, who has been popping up in more and more places that I spend time in, and people seem generally well disposed towards him. So I'll admit I haven't done anything yet with him, and I maybe watched like 10 minutes of him talking about Shadiversity, and everyone dislikes Shadiversity because he's a loser in a hoodie, a Gambison hoodie. Who also wrote possibly one of the most disturbing books to ever grace the pages of TV tropes. A lot of unacceptable and really weird violence tropes. So I suppose we can take a look at this for a little bit, and then we can see what all of this is about. Demon Mama here with the 889 people watching. Jesus, that's ridiculously impressive.
Amount of people who are like, Destiny is my first introduction to politics, and like I liked him because of this, that, and the other, and then like now I know that he's like bad. I think that is the real mark of what good he does, is that he is sort of just like a pressure differential regulator, you know, like a needle jammed into a subsection of the internet that's sort of clasped there and drags things in and then allows them to go in another direction that will make them more overall useful to the online left. I think he really is a leftward pipeline. And staffers during his campaign said they never saw him once. Oh my God, Long Island, yes. Fuck, I miss him. Louboutin is the shoes with the red heels. Yes, I think I meant to say Louis Vuitton bag. Those things sound too close to me. Bring him back. Bring him back. But as far as locales, so I was just talking about the good thing. The most wonderful hypocrite to have ever existed, because nothing about him was dishonest. With Hassan, there is a very noticeable hypocrisy, to get back on track. And that is, he does public consumption of his wealth. He does do, he buys expensive cars, he buys expensive homes, he lives in expensive areas, he pals around with celebrities. And so he does live a life that he didn't work hard by any metric of hard work that normal people would understand. He does not live a life that hard work gave to him. It's mostly luck and privilege led to where he is. And he sits high above every other person in his entire industry subsection. Like, he is born to more wealth, commands more viewers, commands more attention, and gets more opportunities than anyone else on the online left.
If I remember correctly, wasn't Hassan the nephew, or isn't Hassan the nephew of Cenk of the Young Turks? That's a not insignificant leg up if one is attempting to get involved in online media on the left, right? Yeah, I think that would be a generally accurate impression. I did kind of sit on this today because I saw a bunch of stuff about Anna Kasparian and Brianna Wu again, because of course I did. A kind of unique idea that's been kind of bouncing around in my head is I kind of feel like this sudden and dramatic rightward shift we're seeing from them is less because there's going to be a Brianna Wu becomes a right-winger arc, which may well happen, but more because if you really think about like the Young Turks environment in particular, because Brianna Wu is the executive director of Rebellion PAC, which likes to talk about how they would want to talk about politics one day as soon as someone decides to take them seriously. And you have Cenk Uygur, and you have the Young Turks, and this is a massive media network that has been kind of on the forefront of politics for the 2010 era, kind of like they had this leftward rallying cry, and they had Brianna Wu in Gamergate, and she inserted herself into that and got knocked around a little bit. But I think a lot of these people have to sort of reckon with the fact that they are very much, they've just spent over a decade in politics and actually become very wealthy on the back of this. The Young Turks has grown into a rather large media conglomerate, at least by alternative media standards, for sure. So they kind of have to reckon with the fact that they have done a whole lot of profiting from this and not a whole lot of good. And they're really afraid you're going to notice. Like, so that's why Brianna Wu and Anna Kasparian are suddenly all the way out here in the middle of nowhere trying to point out to these people they think are freaks, so that you pay attention to the bouncing ball and not to the fact that they're sitting here in a giant pile of other people's money that they got largely by promising to be not a typical politicians and not typical media figures, and they are very much these media figures. So like they're finding these little like 1,000, 2,000 people Twitter accounts, and they're saying, "Look at this crazy thing they're saying," hoping that you don't notice the fact that they're making off with all your cash. It's just food for thought.
By far, he's our most outspoken figurehead. By far. And unlike someone like Destiny, who's in the same area, Destiny really jumps out of being on the left. Destiny is, depending on who you are talking to at that moment and what day of the week it is, Destiny is a hardline socialist, which has never been the case. A actual literal practicing armband wearing goose stepping neo-Nazi, a common sense conservative, a Midwestern moderate, this, that, and the other. He's kind of all over the political.
Doesn't Destiny live in like Florida for half of his life? Like, isn't, spiritually speaking, Destiny kind of a type of Florida man archetype? And shouldn't we be checking his backyard for the neighborhood pets?
Spectrum, because Destiny just sort of talks about shit. He gives political takes that tend to be pretty leftist, if not, but more like pretty much aligned with the Democratic establishment. I would say Destiny's pretty much just a like an edgy Dem, like literally. I think like just. I don't think I've ever heard him espouse much in the way of politics that doesn't stick to at least the Bernie bro sub caucus of the Democratic main lines. Really, he's never really stepped out of that, so that's kind of where he comes off as a moderate.
I mean, maybe, but by the same token, I don't recall the Bernie bros ever suggesting we should shoot black people in order to suppress civil rights civil rights protests.
Moderate, in my opinion. With Hassan espouses hard leftist ideals while not really visibly engaging in them and doing oddly ineffective things to pretend at leftism, which makes you feel like he doesn't understand what the fuck is going on. So like he has a shitload of money that he doesn't know what to do with, or he says he has it in like banks and stuff. He's like, I don't take ads, I don't do this, I don't do that, blah, 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 which are these sort of like hand wave gestures to things where really like, if he wants to like do news, he could use all of his money to like start up a news organization to like gather news. You know, he could pay the people that are being like underpaid that he brings up in the Twitter. Like there's a lot of ideas, right? And it's a lot of pocket watching, but the thing is when you're talking about socialism, pocket watching is okay. Also, he really talks out of both sides of his mouth, Hassan does, about internet harassment. He, in videos we've watched on this channel, on one hand will say, I am being attacked, this shouldn't happen, you shouldn't permit this to happen, blah, 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 blah. And then he will say, go and mass report this. Go out. Literally, I'm sending my people out from my audience to go and do shit, right? Go and report people. Go and do this. Go and do that, which is a terrible idea. Don't ever do it because.
Fair. I have noticed, like, I assume this is in response to the latest Twitter exchanges between Destiny and Hassan. Yes, Hassan does talk out of both sides of his mouth with regards to harassment, but so does everyone else. Like the irony, I think, of a certain brand of politics that people have is that everyone loves to hate on a hypocrite, but everyone wants to be the hypocrite at the same time. So you'll have Destiny you'll have Destiny do the same thing where he encourages his viewers to harass Melania as she's leaving, getting away from him. Like this is an incredibly common behavior by people online, and it really is why I hesitate to ever engage with the wider online community too much, because there is a utter lack of awareness of how they themselves in their own communities act and perceive, and an assumption of righteousness that happens, and it's never extended to the same side. Like the principal problem that I think a lot of these people have is Hassan is kind of insane. Like I think Tyler is on point here. Hassan is going through the motions of being leftist. So he says these kind of like out of pocket things that are unrelated to and unrealistic to the thing at hand in order to sound like he's the genuine article. Which is, I think, a very fair comparison because, again, Hassan enters into the space in a place of privilege, being the nephew of a incredibly powerful commentator, an incredibly controversial commentator at times, and like you have this organization in the Young Turks too, where people are not practicing what they preach in terms of progressive values, things like labor laws and forming a union. So, like, I think it's a fair thing to point out when this supposedly bastion of leftism is not left.
No one activating your audience in that way towards negativity is going to make them think not all the time about doing specifically what you said, but also just trying to carry out the character of what they're interpreting from you. And when it's Hassan screaming at the top of his lungs about how LSF is going to get him or some other, streamer to kill themselves, and like, won't somebody do something about this, and various other things, and like, this is unfair, that's unfair. He also talks extensively about like good political messaging and like how good he is at debates.
So I'm going to take this a step further. And you might notice that I'm desperately trying to censor myself on a certain level so that we're a little more capable of sounding okay. Stochastic T-word. This is a very commonly employed media trope. This won't somebody do something about the people trying to kill the children, and then next day someone rolls out and shoots up an LGBTQ nightclub. That sort of stuff. This is just the same thing. Smaller scale, and perhaps with less dire consequences at certain times, but it can have incredibly severe consequences. Kiwi Farms, very severe situation. They've been linked to the deaths of, I think, at least 2 people. Death by self-termination in Minecraft. God, this is ridiculous. I wish I could just talk like a normal human being. So, like, he's not wrong. I'm always a lot quieter than everyone. Hang on. How about now?
He's terrible at debate. He literally trash. I think the people he's beaten are just kind of like in the similar vein of Vaj, other fucking morons. Like, yeah, it's pretty easy to beat Andrew Tate on misogyny. You kind of just have to go in there and be like, well, aren't you a misogynist and don't you commit crimes? And then like, you've won the fucking debate, which good, that's great. He's not always a failure, but the problem is his weak spots are very, very weak. You know what I'm saying? And when you're talking about the possibility of somebody causing an issue, talking about all the good things they do is not necessarily going to fix them. And I think a lot of the times the good thing that drama channels do, whether or not you like them, is they do attack the weak spots of creators. With Hassan's inability to keep his cool, maybe even his desire to not keep his cool in order to like get his fucking audience fired up, is a massive, massive opening. And with along with that is his kind of inability to express any of his politics as a equal to somebody that he's talking about. There's 2 schools of people on the internet. One of them is wrong. And that's the people that think he did good in that Piers Morgan debate where there was 3 other people there. And then there's the people who are right and know that was a very, 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 very bad look. He's still proud of how he came off there for no discernible reason.
I watched 5 minutes of that Piers Morgan debate and noped right out. That was bad. I can't stand Piers Morgan to begin with, and I haven't really seen anything impressive from Hassan. But man, that was especially bad. Debate's hard, and like I'm probably not one to talk because my most substantive debate victory so far has been against Wick, which was a very decisive 10 point lead at the end of the day when Wick decided to poll his audience about whether he won his own debate. Well done, Wick, and this just absolutely got crushed. And so like it's not like I've cleared a very high bar. Like, oh yes, you've defeated random people in President Sunday stream and Wick. Really shooting for the stars there, kid. But debate's hard. Keeping your cool is hard, and there is an advantage, I think, to the fact that if you get upset and you start ranting and raving, people watch. It's good television. So I'm not entirely certain that when somebody does decide to flip out on the middle of a debate performance, that they're not doing it performatively.
In his mind and in the mind of his steadily coalescing to like, we're going to support your behavior no matter what type of core audience, that probably seemed great because they just want to see him beat his chest and strut around and be right through might. It's literal just pre-fascism. That's just the case of things. Anyone else watching it is like, okay, he's petulant, he's not making any points, he talks slow, he doesn't seem like he's fucking practiced any of this, and he's rude and condescending to people without ever giving them their due whatsoever. So, you know, like, I mean, I guess if you want to do that entirely, you can. But it's easier. It's more justifiable to be rude and condescending to somebody and pause their videos when they're not in the room with you. You have to moderate your behavior if you're actually talking directly with somebody. I say a lot of shit to What a Faultist in videos, right? But I have to kind of get my entirety of everything out because it's a video. I actually had a conversation with the person.
To be fair, first of all, I feel no inclination to be nice to What a Faultist whatsoever, and I never have. What a Faultist videos are a battle of wills. You have to will yourself to continue. It's a painful experience. And the only expression for that pain is to be merciless. To be merciless in your critique, to be merciless in mocking it. So, like, for example, the other day, we covered What a Faultist's old stuff. And I was incredibly struck by his utter commitment to being the exact same piece of that he was today that he was then. So, you know, there are some people who have earned a due, I think. Destiny, in his conversation with Moulin Rubini and Norman Finkelstein, those are two men who have earned their due. Benny Morris is a man, for as vile as he acted in that debate, earned his due. And Destiny gave it to none of them by not preparing for that debate, not participating in good faith, and sitting there afterwards trying to rant about how impressive he was because he decided to have a 15-minute extended diatribe about an incredibly minor point of rarely invoked international law and say, you don't know this very specific term, which is a subset of a term that you do know, but didn't name, ergo I've won the debate. What? Huh? No. The entire exchange and the aftermath was just like absurd. And like I see what Tyler is saying here about Hassan being bad at this, but so are most of the rest of these figures, to be perfectly blunt. Like, debate is at its core performative, and having a conversation that you really advance your understanding of things, that kind of symposium concept that you take from ancient Greece, like having that conversation is rare and difficult, and it takes an acceptance of oneself, that and a confidence in oneself to publicly engage in a conversation, to say a thing, to engage in this dialectical process of thesis and antithesis, and to create synthesis, and to do those things like this true academic discussion takes a lot of self-esteem when you get down to it. So I think there's a room to say, yeah, a lot of this debate isn't good. A lot of this debate doesn't embrace the spirit that it so desperately wants to invoke. But I don't think it's unique to Hassan.
I say this now, I say it all the time. If you're new here, I will always meet people's energy with what they bring to me. And that doesn't mean just like the intensity of the energy, but also like what kind of rhetorical devices and stuff that you're going to bring to the table. So, I will call somebody a fucking moron, but I'll also give them plenty of time to talk, because you can't argue with somebody that you haven't heard out, right? Once people are saying things and you can kind of jump in, that's where the Vosh thing goes. And that's why the Vosh...
Nonsense. I argue with people in the shower all the time and they're not there. Everyone does it, don't you lie.
Thing fucking went off the rails because it just won't let Vosh. With Hassan, he gets fucking pissy and petulant. And the thing is if you're trying to convince anybody to your cause and like that's what you do, then what the fuck is the point of you acting in a way that's not going to get anyone to join it? And I think it's very interesting that the drama community is doing a much better job of pointing out the shortcomings in Hassan's advocacy than any of Hassan's closest orbiters are.
By the drama community, we just mean DGG, right? That's I don't see them doing anything substantive. Well, maybe Josiah. Actually, Josiah does a lot of things substantive. He's getting interviews with senators and Mehdi Hassan. Go give Pondering Politics a look if you haven't. Good guy. I like hanging out with Josiah, talking with him. Hey Estelle, thanks for coming. Everybody, like the stream. Subscribe if you haven't. It makes me happy.
I had this up. We can watch a little bit of it. Or maybe I should just do... Can I just do Twitter? I had some stuff saved here. Yeah, so this is like Willie Mack made a video. We don't have to watch the entirety of it, but I think he, like, if we just kind of get into this, Ludwig folding Hassan, streaming is harder than a real job. If I just look at the sort of highlight reel of shortcomings of Hassan in the last couple years, it is pretty exceptional. Streaming is harder than real, Ludwig folding, the worst debate, still bad at news, everything is Nazi Germany, rewriting history, hates Hispanics conclusion. I haven't watched all of this, but he makes some pretty decent points in just the worst debate area.
Oh. Hassan didn't like Destiny's debate with Ben Shapiro. He called Destiny an idiot for not picking apart Ben's points. Hassan's advice that he tries to give Destiny is terrible. He's like, never let Ben explain anything.
The problem is you shouldn't actually ever ask him, like, how do you enforce that? Because then
the internet has made a lot of people way too comfortable with saying shit and not getting punched in the face for it. Mike Tyson, pretty sure at least. I like that your name's Jimbo Slice, because like Kimbo Slice, you know what I mean?
you're kind of conceding. You're giving
Low key, I've thought that to myself many, many times.
you're giving him an opportunity to describe his like idiotic worldview.
Destiny does real politics and he is hated for it. It really is true. I mean, Destiny, I'll say this, Destiny leans exceptionally hard. I won't say too. I won't say it in a way that I'm like giving a full-on value judgment of it, because it is what it is. In my mind, Destiny leans extremely hard into unnecessary, in my mind, edginess and stuff that is very, very irritating to people and awful. But I have to say,
okay. I would be curious to see how we're defining real politics, right? Let's take the Progressive Victory canvassing event that happened a couple months ago. I think it was Ohio. I don't remember exactly. A bunch of streamers got into one place, got themselves a Airbnb, and had a little kind of political themed party, and a whole bunch of volunteers went out, canvassed in a Democratic neighborhood, and got 200 voters signed up in a neighborhood that was probably going to vote blue anyway. Cool. But ultimately an utter waste of the potential of the organization you're claiming to build. I don't know if that's real politics so much as it is like this fusion of like, oh, we have these online political superstars in for a given value of superstar, and we're bringing them all in one place. And we're having them bring their volunteers in one place from a community. Why? Why? Think about this. Think about if you have all these streamers spread out all over the country and their communities, which are also diverse, spread out through the country, and you get them all to get up and you get them to start volunteering in their own communities and signing up voters in their own communities. Instead of making a tiny little drop in one community where you're already going to win, you can maybe make thousands of drops in hundreds of communities. Your mic quality is the stuff of nightmares. Apparently we're having a bad mic night tonight. It's on the to be fixed list with the rest of the computer. I think there's a unique opportunity to be effective that's being wasted in Destiny's case.
His ability to understand the political theater of his area, of his subgenre of politics, his ability to understand the political theater of it, and his ability to edge that into positive policy prescriptions that will benefit him and his ideals via his massive audience is pretty impressive. It doesn't mean it's always going to equate to stuff. You can say you are or aren't for this, that, or the other. You have your own statement. It is what it is. Is he the best political spokesperson for stuff? No. Is he probably, as far as I could say, amongst the biggest pieces of shit, amongst the biggest players that I know of from the left that would appeal to people on the internet in his area? I would say he's probably one of the best examples of trying to appeal to alt-right, highly online, extremely non-grass touching or just highly edgy boys. I think he's probably one of the best examples of approaching those kind of communities, staying relevant in them, and still constantly being a leftward force. I think some of the best things about Destiny is the constant influx of new Destiny fans and the constant outflow of old Destiny fans. Because the amount of people who are like, Destiny is my first introduction to politics, and like I liked him because of this, that, and the other, and then like now I know that he's like bad. I think that is the real mark of what good he does, is that he is sort of just like a pressure differential regulator, you know, like a needle jammed into a subsection of the internet that sort of clasped there and drags things in and then allows them to go in another direction that will make them more overall useful to the online left. I think he really is a leftward pipeline. I can't see generally the opposite. With Hassan, I think there's a big issue of people going from the left toward more fascist positions overall. Without irony, I say that because Hassan is emblematic directly of great man theory. That's what people like about him. If you listen to his fans and what they say they like about Hassan, it is all stuff that just gets you back to vanguardism, great man theory, authoritarian style economic change as opposed to a liberal economic change through democratic processes, like forced this, forced that. And
I don't think this is inaccurate at all, but I also think it applies to Destiny.
And a lot of reactionary standpoints. A lot of people who are like, I think that anything is okay, ontologically speaking, if it results in the results, basically, if it creates the results that I want.
view, and Ben is a very skilled debater, and he will try to present his handmaiden tale as dystopia in like
Destiny is stuck in Ayn Rand's libertarian fantasy land. I'd have to see some evidence for that. That's crazy. I would need a lot. I would need a lot of evidence in that direction. Just because, first off, if you have more than 2 brain cells and you're still a libertarian, Rand is just not it. You know what I mean? Like,
Ayn Rand is that thing that you get involved in high school when you decide that you hate the world just a little bit more than you hate yourself. Wait, I'm not sure if he's talking about Hassan or Destiny. Well, yeah, I think every criticism he's laying at the feet of Hassan, I would lay at the feet of Destiny, particularly on this Israel stuff, especially.
like Randian economics and Randian politics are moronic. I can see people.
Also, nothing any streamer has ever done is metaphysically pertinent, so never use the word ontological in regards to a streamer again.
Approaching him because maybe they do think of him as a John Galt type figure, but he's not an industrialist. He doesn't really provide much. I think in Rand's world, somebody like Destiny is considered useless. I don't know. I have to get more into Rand. I think he's just a liberal, not like because Randian economics, through everyone that I've ever talked to, Randian political theory, as light as that is, I've got to read that fucking book. Fine, that this fucking goddamn streaming is gonna make me have to read the goddamn Fountainhead. Atlas Shrugged and shit. I'm just so uninterested in doing it. But all of the people who ascribe to Randian politics are for governmental dissolution. Ultimately, like it is an ANCAP theory, a narco-capitalist theory, and I've never. It requires that. Like all Randian policy requires dissolution of a federal unified government, and he is pro-liberal democracy, so like that is antithetical to him. I would need like serious.
I think that's a much more coherent reading of Rand than I would give, than I would ascribe to Ayn Rand in general. Ayn Rand is what's the word? Somewhat terrifyingly incoherent in a lot of regards. And people who ascribe to this philosophy come off themselves as incoherent.
Serious evidence. I would believe that fucking Destiny is an undercover ML. Unironically, I would believe that he was an undercover Marxist-Leninist before I believed he was Randian. Just because there's nothing in anything I've ever heard him say politically, even joking, where he would prefer a dissolution of the state. That's the thing. All of his policy prescriptions require large government, which is why he's inevitably more left of all of the center moderate libertarian type people, and especially he's.
To be fair, most conservative ideologies would also require large governments. They just don't want you to realize that conservative policy prescriptions about just taking out the government still require a government. They just want to take that power and diffuse it in such a way that it's very difficult to hold it accountable.
He's leftist by an American standpoint, because a lot of American futurist and even MAGA crowd people actually still want dissolution of the federal government. It's part of the Southern strategy is weakening of federal programs and stuff. States' rights is Randian ultimately, in its end game. Like a balkanization of the Americas is a very, very very right-wing policy prescription, and Randian goes to that. That's why in America that's how that pulls out. If you're not from America and that sounds crazy, whatever, but just understand in America that would be for Destiny specifically, that's crazy unless I've missed something like entirely.
Like a relatively positive way.
But that's how good conversations work. One person talks and then the other person responds. If you don't go down their logical thought process, how will you ever understand their argument? It's no wonder all of Hassan's debates turn into screaming matches. Now, this debate was widely praised for being civil, respectable, and for allowing there to be a deeper conversation than just name calling. I don't want to show you too much because it's a little dry. It's a politically nuanced conversation.
Hassan is unfortunately the dumbest guy here this time. Please just simply tell me why you think that is the case instead of just saying that and making yourself feel smart, because that is what dumb guys do.
My guy, that's you. The master masturbator Hassan would get a chance to show off his debate tactics on Piers Morgan, but unfortunately would run into someone as stubborn as himself. Emily is pro-Israeli Hassan. She's loud and overly dramatic, demonizing everyone.
How dare you? How dare you say it's okay to talk about an intifada?
My goal is solutions. Your goal is the continuation of violence.
Yeah, these two were made for each other. I ship them. When going on a show to debate Israel-Palestine, the number one question you will be asked is, do you think October 7th was justified? And Hassan refuses to answer directly.
It does seem that you're very selective about the violence that you support. That when you support it, it's justified. When other people use things in a violent way that you don't support, it's unjustified. Seems like it's all skewed to what Hassan Piker thinks.
Well, not necessarily just what I think. I think that there are obvious markers, obvious boundaries. I don't think violence against civilians is justified. I've talked about October 7 on this very same show, saying that it was a tragedy. It was atrocities that occurred on October 7 specifically. When you target civilians in any capacity, I think that is unacceptable. However, this does not mean that violence will not occur in many circumstances. Violence has occurred in every single revolutionary act.
One of the main reasons I want to get... Okay, he's like right here.
Which is, does Hamas attack count as...
This does not mean action. Many good revolutionary actions.
Here's now asked the obvious question, which is, does Hamas attack count as one of those good revolutionary actions?
Was what Hamas did on October the 7th an example of what you would call a justified revolution?
I don't look at every single act of violence. I look at...
This is the exact same. One of the main reasons I wanted to show you guys this, and you don't have to, you can watch this Willie Mack show video on your own. If you do, if you don't want to. If you don't like drama content, don't watch it. It's a little mean-spirited. It's a little reactionary, but that's fine. The thing is, and the reason to bring this up is I just wanted you to hear how Willie Mack show is talking about it. And he hits a lot of the exact same points that I did and that I did on that. And the reason why I think that's important isn't because necessarily Hassan is wrong in some of his messaging, but like I said, and actually Willie Mack show says it a little bit later. I've seen this specific part of the clip. He's like, he said the same thing I did, which is like, if you think that Hamas is justified in killing Israelis, just say it, come out and fucking say it. But you're too obsessed with these optics and seeming like and appealing to a lot of people as this like fake revolutionary that you're kind of stabbing yourself in the foot, which is honestly good advice. And my thing is if Willie Mack show should not be a person that's being able to give this good of criticism on a major political figure, with all due respect to Willie Mack show. Not like he's too fucking stupid. I don't know the guy personally, but generally drama content is catered to the standard, slightly reactionary normie. The bread and butter of old school fucking drama content.
I think most mainstream political streamers and the concept of a drama streamer, the Venn diagram is increasingly getting closer to a circle. For example, look at the people like I don't like Food Shops, but you got to respect Food Shops' grind, where she's posting content virtually every day, and most of it is designed around gotcha drama stuff. Even if you think that Hassan was pro October 7th, why should he go and god damn YouTube go out and say that killing civilians is okay? Well, here's the thing. Hassan gets into the he said she said Sally sells seashells by the seashore bullshit. It's very easy to go, well, Hamas kills civilians, but so does Israel. and it's very easy to get tied up in this. Like, for every example of Hamas massacre you pull out, I could turn around and pull out a example of an Israeli sanctioned massacre, and then you could do this all day. And they want to keep that conversation there because it's really easy to get full outraged about calling out the IDF and comparing them to Hamas, instead of tackling the real problem, which is the cycle of violence that both sides function in, that both sides require as a condition of their existence. The right-wing Israeli government collapses without an enemy, which is why they are so desperately creating them. Because they think the more enemies they have, the stronger they'll be, the more principled they are, and that's just not the case. So much of this conversation that these people are having feeds into the narrative that exactly creates the continuation of violence and doesn't create solutions. It's designed to not create solutions. It's designed to continue violence.
Content used to be like, this family channel is doing a literal crime on their YouTube. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, this guy, you know, for whatever, EDP, what, you remember that one fat pedophile dude? You know, this guy is like, they're hunting him, and then, but like, maybe the hunt is fucked up. Like, it's normie ass content. It's just standard gossip and scold bullshit. And the thing is you should be, as any political actor, able to elevate yourself through just understanding enough about people and how they act that you won't be immediately have your throat out where somebody like Willie Mack Show can bite it, because he's going to do this kind of content no matter what. If it's not Hassan, he's going to be talking about somebody else, and he's going to be like, wow, this person like literally is walking around on the internet with their throat open, ready to get fucking pounced on by a drama YouTuber because they're doing drama shit. They're embarrassing themselves. They're being hypocrites on main. They're engaging in lol-cal or pre-lol-cal behavior. Look at this. Any normie can understand it, right? To get into Destiny, you have to have like higher level understandings of how he's kind of fucked up and weird. You know what I mean? Like, and most normie react.
I really don't think that's the case. Yeah, I'm going to put a hard pass on that. No. Destiny is a garden variety sociopath. You'll find one in every frat house in America. Flat out. That's it. Destiny is a garden variety sociopath. There ain't nothing special going on behind his eyes. Just the dead, emotionless calculations of a guy who wants to manipulate the out of people's emotions. No. He is 100% completely understandable. No special takes required.
Reactionaries aren't going to give a shit about edgy jokes. You have to be highly on the left to fucking be like, okay, you know, I'm permanently pissed at fucking Destiny. He should not be saying the N-word. No, I think he's fucking stupid as shit. He's a fucking moron for it. But I can't do anything about it. Twitch, I guess he's already kicked off of Twitch. He's on Rumble. The dude's kind of like immune to criticism in that way. And I think Destiny knows it. And that's why he doesn't care and does what he does. Whereas Hassan doesn't understand that he is engaging with stuff in a way that he's not immune to. And he thinks he should be, and he thinks he's above the criticisms that he's getting, and he's not, which is really what fucking drama YouTubers latch onto. And even if those things aren't always evident, the second you see yourself kind of getting approached in that way, you should assume that you're fucking up as a higher level actor. Drama YouTubers that attack individual citizens, privately existing individuals, motherfuckers with like 400 subs on.
Come on. Like this entire thing, like Destiny has. Here's the thing. If you all remember the Mr. Girl article about Destiny, he is probably very on point. Like, it wasn't a very well done thing, and it was a nightmarish thing to go through. But he was probably on point. Like, I have no difficulty believing that Destiny is a horrible person, because you see it in how he acts. You saw it in how he treated his ex-wife. You and talked about her, and then all these things. I would ask what Tyler has engaged with Destiny, because I think he was correct. I think Mr. Girl, for all his incredible faults, and believe me, he's full of them. I wouldn't let Mr. Girl near a school, for example. But for all his incredible faults, and he was definitely the wrong person to say it, but he wasn't wrong, I don't think. Destiny is not. All you need to really do to understand Vosh and Keffels and Destiny and Hassan is they go to this progressive victory event in Washington, D.C., and they're supposed to go to the White House, and the White House takes one look at them and goes, nope, these people are out of control. They will be a PR disaster. That's the ball game. That's it. That's your career in politics done.
On YouTube, yeah, that's dipshit behavior. But somebody that prides themselves on being media trained and you know, like, I'm out here, I literally exist to do agitprop. Like, I've heard Hassan say, I literally exist to do agitprop. That's what I provide. I provide agitprop. That's what I do. You know, actually, I think I almost got it that time. If the entirety of your existence is the visibility of your existence, you have no right to complain when you fuck that up. Like that's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a professional football player who's a quarterback. No, you know what's better is a center. A center has like one job, well, a series of jobs, but basically the center is in the center of the offensive line. Snap the ball, make sure no one gets past you, right? Do these things, shift. There's a lot of complexities to that specific job, but the biggest thing that you do is you fucking hold the line, right? You hold the line. This is like a center in the NFL who doesn't work out and doesn't eat the right calories and shows up weak on game day, getting fucking knocked to the ground and saying, like, I cannot believe that these fucking defenders are pushing past me. Like, how is the fuck defense like stronger than me? Like, why are they pushing me to the ground? Ref, can I get a call? Can I get a fucking call? They keep knocking me down after I snap the ball. This guy, I didn't even snap it fast enough. He snatched the ball out of my hand and fucking scored on me. It's humiliating. I feel like shit. Why are people beating me in the game I'm playing while they're following the rules of the literal game that I say I'm an expert in? And it's all literally 100% my fault that I'm fucking up. Like, that is Hassan. Literally.
Maybe, but here's the thing. The rules of politics, particularly liberal politics, can be very fluid. You see that in the way that Republicans manipulate those rules to try to gain an advantage and do the rules for thee, not for me. I think the best example is McConnell's withholding of Obama's nomination at the end of his term for Supreme Court and then turning around and giving it to Trump. There's not a set of rules. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to understand. To borrow the sports metaphor, you have to be willing to know when to throw an elbow. And my real criticism of Hassan would be that he doesn't know to throw the elbow. He doesn't know how to throw the elbow effectively. You have to be able to reset things to the rules you understand. This is a general problem that Democrats have in American politics, is they don't throw elbows enough, which lets the Republicans walk all over them. Like for example, Mike Johnson is screwed. A number of incredibly important political, long-standing Republican Congress people have resigned in such a way to specifically screw Mike Johnson. And if one more person does that, he loses the speakership. It's not that the Democrats have really been terribly effective at this, because the Republicans changed the rules on them, and they're not willing to play by those rules. They're going to sit there and take it until they get back into office, which probably actually might happen this election, become the majority again. All things considered. Not here. Lauren Boebert might win in this district, and I'm already retching and throwing up in my mouth. But they don't throw elbows. Like, we shouldn't have these court problems that we have, but Dick Durbin has been sitting on, well, kind of, maybe I should, do something, but I'm not going to because reasons, Like we talk about Biden being senile. No, it's Dick Durbin that you got to worry about. This is, I think, I think an understanding that the state of play of politics is very important, and that's important in almost any like game theory crafted idea, right? Understanding state of play, and being able to make the correct decision inside the system of the state of play. The thing that makes politics tricky is that there is no set of rules, that there is basically a set of boundaries, and you can go to a certain extent and color outside the lines safely. But the more you push those boundaries, the more outside the lines you can get, the more you push those boundaries. And until one party snaps you back in, you're gonna have a steadily failing system. And Hassan doesn't realize that. Hassan doesn't engage in effective political advocacy, for sure. Tyler's exactly correct about that. But I don't think he's got his finger on the pulse of why.
Out there, throat exposed to the wolves, and demanding again and 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 again, basically like displays of loyalty from the left and from leftists and from people in his own sphere to like say like, no, Hassan's not making a mistake. Like we need to massage Hassan's mistakes. We need to kick some dirt over this. Like Hassan is our greatest soldier. We need to be behind Hassan. If Hassan says something, he's saying it on behalf of like millions of dead Palestinian children. If Hassan does anything, he's doing it literally to end all genocide on earth forever. Anytime that you step outside of specifically like sucking Hassan's dick, you are destroying the future of the online left and of leftist agitprop and of leftist policy going forward into the new millennium forever. Like that is the issue. And there should be no greater indication of that than him being this fucking exposed to someone like Willie Mackshow, to getting into a debate with Willie Mackshow and getting fucking slapped around like an absolute fucking bitch because he doesn't fucking scrimmage. Like, to extend sports metaphors to kind of hammer this home, because I know there's a bunch of jock fucks like me.
We should steal third base. Cross the blue line. Gretzky passes to Jesus. And Jesus follows out the goal. Jesus saves.
Even though I never really was in Hassan's audience, Hassan refuses to scrimmage. That's the issue with Hassan. Hassan does not scrimmage. Hassan does not go to training camp. Hassan does not hit the bag. Hassan does not do work. Hassan does not drill. He's fucking Chad Ochocinco for the Bengals back in the late aughts, where he's like, I'm one of the best players on the team. I'm the most notable player on the team. I could leave. I could stay whenever I go. And just not performing when it comes down to game time. Just literally not going out there and doing the one thing everyone needs to do.
I'm pretty sure we just invoked almost every sport except curling. To be fair, so like my only real exposure to curling, I'll be perfectly honest, was playing Digimon World on the PS1. Where inexplicably there was a curling metagame, a mini game, right? That you could unlock by adding Digimon to Defile City. Like, why? Where is this kind of like a Tamagotchi-based game coming up with curling out of the middle of nowhere? But apparently it's a big deal in Canada. Like, we're going to throw a stone down some ice, and then we're going to fight about it. And it's like the one thing Canadians will fight about. Why? I don't know. And then there's the little guys with the brooms, melting the ice. Oh, Digimon World was a lot of fun. Like, it was a spectacularly difficult game to get your head around. Because like, why is all these horrible things happening? I don't want to spend 7 hours in a gym, training a Digimon, but to get something that actually won't get slaughtered. And then when you realize that the actual key to that game is just spamming mini attacks that interrupt the opponent, you're like, oh, okay. Digimon World 2 was a lot of fun too. Man, there were some bangers on the PS1.
One fucking reason you're famous. There's one fucking reason you're rich. It's this: you are failing. You're failing. He's humiliating every single supporter he has by not.
Except it's not the reason that Hassan is rich. I'm willing to bet just that Hassan I'm willing to bet that Hassan is like most people who are wealthy and was born into it. Look, I know of a sterling example of someone who became wealthy, or at least nominally wealthy in a certain sense, by working, like the immigrant success story. I know what goes into that. You come over from Europe and you work really hard and you become wealthy. My grandfather and my grandmother had a great deal of money to pass out to grandchildren and their children when they died. They lived in a town in Illinois for their entire adult lives. Tiny town, slowly being run down. It was a town that was dependent upon a particular company for jobs. My grandfather worked for that company. He made a great deal of money. He invested and then never looked at it again. And suddenly he found himself, in a certain sense, with money. And my grandmother was frugal around the house because she was a child of the Depression, and one stick of butter had to go for 7 years, etc., etc., etc. And these are people who came from a very specific period of time, and they lived in just the right period of time. They came here, they lived through the Depression, they lived through World War II, and then they lived through the post-war boom, and that's when it happened. And they stayed in this house, this tiny little house that they bought next to my great-grandmother's house for their entire lives. And that was what happened. They lived quiet, unassuming lives. My grandfather was a appointed politician in the town on the zoning board of appeals, and they lived these very quiet, unassuming lives. And that's how that happened. And it's a rare thing. You don't see it. It's just not the thing. And here's the thing. Here's the kicker. My great-grandfather, my namesake, came to this country. And he was an engineer. He was an educated man. Who spoke not a lick of English, and he was put to work polishing silver. And the chemicals that they used in the silver polishing trade were caustic. So as he was working, doing this job so far below the level of education he had obtained in Europe, he goes out, he catches tuberculosis, and they send him out to Arizona to beat the consumption. And he didn't. He died, and he is out there to this day, in a quiet grave very far from my great-grandmother, where her grave sits in the same cemetery as my mother and my grandmother and grandfather. And that's an incredibly common story. That's how so many people who came here ended up. They came here. That's how many people who come here now. Like a whole bunch of people came over here, for example, in 2021, refugees fleeing Afghanistan, doctors, people of privilege and status, whose status isn't recognized here, who are starting from the bottom. Hassan is born into a family where he's incredibly wealthy. He's born into a situation in which wealth is generative. He's rich not because he's good at a thing or some kind of meritocracy. He's rich because he started rich. He was there on the ladder to begin with. And that's the basic truth of Hassan when you get down to it. He is the affect of what he thinks a leftist should be, because he's never really experienced anything that would like genuinely radicalize him. in a real sense. Like, everyone goes through this process. Like, that's why I don't come down too hard on people who are like kind of in that new radical I'm a dick phase to the world because the world's a dick to me. I don't come down too hard on them because that is the learning curve, really. You get radicalized and you feel a sense of betrayal and rage. It's the Reddit atheist phenomenon, just put for social and political issues, right? And eventually, most people grow out of it. They come to understand a much more nuanced view of how to interact with the world, how to be effective as a political commentator, and how to be effective as a political voice in their everyday lives. They go from being mad at everyone, from hating the system, to understanding that efficacy sometimes means accepting people you don't want to be accept. That 4 years ago despised, right? Great grandfather was an Italian immigrant laborer who was kind of a goon. To be fair, I'm not sure. Like, are we talking about goon in the modern, disturbing Gen Z sense, or goon in the I'm gonna be a mafioso sense? Cut off a guy's nose. Well, in fairness, the past didn't smell great, so he's probably doing that guy a favor.
Not being able to fucking react to this shit. And by constantly getting online and saying like, oh my God, people are noticing what I'm fucking saying. And then they're sharing it. And what am I supposed to do? You're going to make me feel bad. You're going to make me fucking feel bad. Like, dude.
Come on. Destiny's been doing the same thing.
Everybody in politics, that happens to them. Alex Stone, that piece of shit, or Stein, whatever his name is, that guy stalked Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to her office and sexually harassed her. Like, that is worse than anything Hassan has ever gone through. It's just
AOC side note, by the way. I saw a tweet yesterday of someone going, yeah, AOC's now worth $29 million after only a term and a half in Congress. I wonder what she did was illegal. And I'm like, okay, if AOC has a net worth of $29 million, I will agree that something hinky's going on. But Congress people have to publish financial disclosures. So I went and looked up this thing, what her financial disclosure sheet was for the last time she filed. Turns out this $29 million net worth lie has been in the water supply for a while. And so these financial disclosure sheets don't give exact numbers for privacy reasons. They present a range. And once you take into account her range of student loan debt to her net worth, it's incredibly unlikely that she's worth much at all, like maybe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, possibly, depending on the size of her loan debt. Not even remotely close to $29 million. Like, the thing, I remember AOC going into Washington when she first got there and said, I'm having a hard time finding a place to live. I'm like, no, you're going to be able to live rent-free in the heads of every right-winger who's mildly attracted to you and very upset about it for the rest of your life. Just right there. Rent control, free housing, you got it.
It is. It just is. I know, because there's video evidence of the other thing, because that's the intention of it. Do you know what I mean? But like, dude, you sit in your room all day. You have plenty of time to practice, but you don't practice anything. Everyone knows. I can see it. The evidence is there. You are not practicing for shit. Destiny's dumbass is. Destiny's fucking getting out there and he's scrimmaging. Destiny's doing debates. He's doing scrimmages. He's running plays. He's drilling. He's fucking looking at he's doing debate reviews, watching other people's debate and trying to figure out how the fuck they're making their points. If you want to beat Destiny in a debate, you have to do literally what Destiny does. He's fucking going out there and cracking some skulls here and there. Most of all of the responses to him being bad, and I'm saying this because I fucking like Destiny. I don't really like the guy. I don't think he's a likable person, and I want him to be replaced by better actors. People like Hassan are in the best position to do it, and he's failing his ability to usurp that throne and take that position by not doing the work, by failing his fucking community. I say that unreservedly, failing his fucking community. all of the like Destiny didn't do good, Destiny fucking was trash and shit that I see on the fucking left is not actual like breakdowns of his content. It's this fucking Wikipedia shit again and 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 again, which is just personal attacks, which fine, you know, like, but he's weathering them because the evidence is just literally the thousands of hours of fucking, or hundreds of hours or whatever of him.
Okay, we got to do this. Let's go. Where'd I put it? Oh, I didn't open it up this time. That's why everything's quiet. There's no set of circumstances I think that will make me like Destiny as a person. I would, if he was affective, who is messaging me? I'll deal with that later. Cathedral goers, there are other moderators to message if I am streaming. Just FYI. I know my name appears first on the list, but that's just because it starts with a D. Queen Bee had a thing in Squid Cult Elders I want to look at. I think it was Queen Bee anyway. Here we go. Yeah, this is... I think I have to download this to put it up on and not show all my crap. This is Destiny here. Destiny, who is my strongest soldier? I need an IDF. It's actually so fucking irritating. And their sycophantic incel fans eat it all up and regurgitate the same shit. It's just so fucking annoying. These people hit me on literally every single random weird personal attack because they are fighting over eating the scraps of Hassan's last dump, so they echo anything they've heard from him constantly. What do you mean, you... Why bring up my wife or my family or my ex or anything about me constantly? I'm thinking Jonestown, but not tragic. Like, what the hell? This guy is bonkers. This guy is bonkers. Make the world a better place. And like, wow. I think the best thing that could happen is they all grab a bag of fent-loaded cokes that can go... Destiny's not an effective... This guy's got pets in his backyard. I swear to God, we're going to dig it up and find, like, everyone's dog, Fluffy, will be there. That's probably what happened to Wick's dog. Christ. I am Israel. Oh, thank you, Napalm. I am Israel. Like, yeah. I don't... Destiny is incredibly skilled at the art of rhetoric in a certain sense. He's very good at talking. He's very good at presenting himself and looking good to his audience. But outside of that sphere, it's not impressive. And like Tyler hones in on this, saying, yeah, Destiny is really good at getting people to come in and say, get involved in online politics, then eventually turn around and say Destiny is bad. Yeah, that's accurate, but he's not effective as a commentator. And Destiny is very good at a particular style of commentation. He'll say a bunch of things. And Brianna Wu does this, and a lot of other people do it. They're like, oh, we should talk about policy. And they'll talk about a concept of a policy. Like, oh, I think we should have universal health care. And that's to them talking about policy. And this is what talking about policy is. Talking about policy kind of takes in, like, and just to borrow a business or a military term. Star, situation, task, action, result. You understand what the situation is. You set a list of tasks that you have to do to resolve the situation, actions taken to further those tasks, and the result. Describe what happens. That's talking about policy. Policy is a series of concrete proposals that you can enact in a society in order to affect change, not vaguely gesturing to things you'd like to see happen. The Israel thing is good business for Destiny. Like, I'll be frank, every time I talk about Israel, which is a lot these days, I get absolutely punished by the algorithm. Supporting Israel's good. Supporting Israel is good for business. Not supporting Israel is not good for business. You will get shellacked. There's an excellent chance that I'll get shellacked over it eventually. And it's not like I've said anything outrageous. I've been incredibly measured in my takes about Israel. I've been incredibly specific in how I talk about this, but I'm going to get shellacked. You watch.
Reading fucking books on these topics, and
no, he is not. Oh Lord, Destiny is not reading books. I walked into a room with three of the most preeminent scholars on the history of the Palestine-Israel conflict, and he was utterly at a loss to communicate with them about their books. Like, if I had the opportunity, I mean, I'm less enthused with Benny Morris than I was when I read him as an undergrad, but like if I had the opportunity to read, be in a room with Benny Morris and to talk with him about it, I'd be citing his goddamn books back at him, which Finkelstein did. He was so unprepared for that debate, it isn't even funny.
And then being able to talk about the things that he understands, like that. If your entire, like, he uses Wikipedia as all you can say, okay, well, like, you're not gonna fucking beat him on that because his audience doesn't care. You are not. I have never seen. I fucking watched the guy. I want to fuck Destiny up. I would love to, because I like to kick the fucking bottom of it.
You've got to believe, Tyler. You don't believe. Act as though ye have faith, and faith shall be granted unto you. Fake it until you make it. That's Destiny's motto.
He's kind of an asshole. He's a piece of shit here and there. He's got a lot of personal shortcomings and failures, sure, but the guy's fucking cred when it comes to the job that he does is unassailable. There is nothing you can do to put yourself between Destiny and his audience the way that you can for, like, Vosh and for Hassan.
That's called parasociality, not being effective.
Especially right now, especially if he keeps going down this road, you can sneak in and peel off chunks of Hassan's audience have left because they're fucking weirded out and shit. Hassan's growth was massively fucking stunted because of him not being able to just reach across, not even an aisle, just like side to side with H3 and be like, I'm going to be nice to you. I'm sorry for my community freaking the fuck out. Literally just like telling Ethan Klein, like, no, you just have to change the way that you talk and you feel about a conflict that's highly personal to you, or I can't help but let my fucking community harass you, which is just gone.
Well, that's not fair. He did bring something to the table. He brought an iPad.
H3 fans that like H3 gone. Anybody who's like on that side of the conflict.
We're not going to have me name one good point Destiny made in that debate, because if you recall, me, Sunday, and Brooks spent 2 nights and 10 hours going over that debate, and we didn't even cover all of it.
Conflict and confusion gone. They're like, you just see that he's like, I'm for harassment, I'm for terrorism, I won't admit it, but like I'm going to be in that area and talk about it and then still be mealy-mouthed. Ultimately, it's just a shitty position to be in, and it creates so many cracks that, like I said, you have drama tubers that can get in there and fucking crack you, dude. And that's so insane.
We need to get the boys back together for the Destiny versus Gorka debate. Look, I loathe Sebastian Gorka. I have read his PhD dissertation into some of the most vile Islamophobic crap you will ever read. Sebastian Gorka, the fact that he exists as a commentator is an affront to the decency of mankind and the ultimate argument for the non-existence of God. Destiny Gorka is the problem of evil personified. Sebastian Gorka is the problem of evils personified walking around. This man is so obscenely wrong about everything he's ever done in his life that I sincerely hope no one ever listens to him. And this is like wild, right? Myron Macbeth is like, yeah, I'm going on Sebastian Gorka's show tonight, but my stick is I'm all about stopping misinformation. Dude. Well, Not So Erudite is also like a drag on anything she talks about. Because let's be frank, Not So Erudite is a very special kind of insecure. She wants you to think she's very smart and will act about it and will be incredibly condescending about it too. I think a great example of this is a friend of the channel, Fairy Queen, and her had a toss-up on Wick's stream once. And she gets like really like, do you know, and she does this a lot, I've noticed, do you know what, and she like pulls out this random like weird ass thing that's like maybe tangentially related to the thing she's talking about. Do you know this thing? And like what this thing is, this thing that relates to this technical thing. It doesn't matter if they don't know it. They're arguing your point, not your random tangent point, Kyla. I don't like a Not So Erudite on a remarkable principle level. Like, she'd be a fine entertainer if she didn't try to present herself as an expert in anything. Like you're a streamer. You're not particularly outstanding in your field. My particular favorite is when she's responding to Sunday and she's like, I guess I'm Sunday's not much of an academic. Like, oh honey, you are the lab assistant. You're not much of an academic. You're getting people coffee and entering data. Just take several seats, please. When you have published your own paper in your own name as the primary author, then we can talk about you being an academic. No, being charismatic is hard, Vodka. Come on. She's not, she could learn to be charismatic. Like, is she entertaining? No, she's not entertaining because she doesn't do things that are entertaining. She's not entertaining because she's spending all her time trying to appear smart instead of just being a commentator. If she stuck to like basic, pumpkin spice latte bitch commentator stuff, she'd be fine.
Insane. That's so fucking insane that these high-level people in this area working at constantly.
I covered this back when it happened in like a 5-minute vid. Not So Erudite's particular problem is because she's selling you a free service in the form of I will look up a therapist for you, and she's talking about I will evaluate your complex needs. How are you proposing to do so? She's presenting herself basically as having the ability to suss out your needs as a therapist. She's not a therapist. She's not licensed as one. She is not a therapist. She is presenting herself inappropriately and selling you a service that you can use for free very easily. That's basically a Google search away for $50. That's unacceptable behavior no matter how you slice it. That's Erudite's principal problem. I don't necessarily think like her presentation of credentials. She deliberately fudged her presentation of credentials in order to sell that service. And that's the problem with Erudite. She is not an expert in any such thing, like ranting about dark triad shit. Like, oh wow.
Constantly watching political coverage. These are not people that are new to this shit. Like, Vosh is supposed to know all sorts of this and that about fucking politics, right? He has to have, I would assume, have covered like the Anthony Weiner scandal 10,000 different times where people were like, they let the fucking cat out of the bag about whatever their weird sexual predilection was, and it sabotaged their career. All of that studying put up not a single fucking barrier between them and like Discovery. For Hassan, just so many people bad at messaging, bad at being the leaders of their parties, fucking up, being irritating, being pissy, not having any sort of self-awareness at all, and then now you're here. And you look like this, and just completely clueless, isolated at the top of a cat, literally articulating his own problems again and again and again and doing nothing to solve them.
Well, Karasu, yeah, she primes her audience to not trust anyone else but her. Yes, exactly. But that is what happens in most parasocial situations. Not to dive too deeply into this, look at what happened to Xena and Poppy. They're an excellent example of this going even further, right? We have had individuals in our community who were fairly steadfast. Let's be frank, I'm basically a subset of President Sunday's community at this point. Like, we are so closely intertwined as to be a largely like a tiny little organisms attached onto that. Was it a good business choice? We'll see. But it's a good moral choice in my book. Look at what happened to Xena and Poppy, though. They have created, and I had conversations with Thou Who Shall Not Be Named in order not to bring down the wrath of Xena and Poppy, about the structure of how she organizes her space, how Poppy organizes her space. And it's cult-like. And there is a lot of streamers, Hassan and Destiny included, who do that. I think it's a toss-up for NSE and Poppy, which one is kind of worse. I think there's a unique evil in manipulating people's mental health understandings in order to create for yourself a financial advantageous situation. And they both have engaged in this behavior to a disturbing degree. Like, I think, especially in the environment, like, this is somewhat unrelated. There is, and I talk about my therapist with that because I talk about what happens online and when it bothers me with her. There is a market for people who kind of present themselves as pseudo therapists, and they do this thing where they use therapy speak to name a problem. To name like oh, you have ADHD, and then they affirm that in a very seemingly positive way. But that's where it stops. It's like, you have ADHD, you have autism, you have this, you have that, blah 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 blah. And then they never do the second part, which is doing the work to be able to integrate yourself as best you can into society. So they get affirmed by this content that's sort of like pseudo therapeutic. Pseudo-therapeutic advice that kind of like empowers you in a certain weird way and makes it okay to have these things, which is kind of positive. But the being okay with the thing, it's like being on the road to healing takes those 5 steps, denial, anger, disbelief, grief, whatever. They never get you to the finish line, and they're incentivized not to get you to the finish line. Well, thank you, Napalm. We hope to take off too. They're incentivized to never get to the finish line because it keeps you coming back to their content for that affirmation. And I think mental health content is incredibly dangerous to do badly. So we have done in the past a couple episodes, and I'm really sparse on these because I don't want them to become what this channel is about men's mental health. And we do this because I think people talk about men's mental health in a really unproductive way online. And I want there to be a place where it's talked about well. And I consult with therapists and social workers I know so that I can present to you the next step. I can affirm what you're feeling, and then I can present to you how to interact with the world in a better way. And that's hard work. But it's an important work to do when you're talking about mental health, because the thing about mental health crisis is that a crisis is supposed to be temporary, and the person who gets you out of the crisis is supposed to be guiding you out, not putting you deeper in the forest of mirrors.
I feel like I'm fucking alone. I have no one to fucking talk to. I can't go anywhere and have conversations with anybody. Like, that's your fucking fault. That's your fucking fault.
I'm interrupting this a lot, but Destiny said the same thing. He's like, I wish I could have conversations with people my own age. But because Destiny is basically a 12-year-old, no one his own age wants to talk with him.
You did it. You did it to yourself, and now it's destroying you bit by bit. Like, I don't understand what is going to happen with Hassan that's going to put him on a path that makes him start fixing these issues. Like, they can only get worse. You know what I'm saying? Cox fucking, like, I want to fucking be pissed off. I want Destiny to have something that is a weakness too, because it would be much more fun to talk about him. But even that asshole's doing the goddamn Bridges podcast where he's talking to people he had fucking beef with and crushing the beef. He's having like direct interpersonal conversations with people at his own level and expanding the kind of individuals who have direct connection to talk to him. He still doesn't trust them, I guess, enough to bring into his personal life. I fucking wouldn't. But like, at least you have that sort of like interpersonal connection at a professional level with other people who do and don't agree with you, or people that will at least like take the fucking piss out of you sometimes. Which every time you see somebody with Hassan, they sit beside Hassan, behind him slightly, kind of off mic, and then he watches videos and they watch him over his shoulder. He's just like, his entire podcast or live stream.
Look, I had entire dates in college that consisted of exactly that. It's probably why I'm single.
Thing is just the guy who's like, hey man, look, like, watch this video, and then you go to his house and you smoke weed and you watch videos, and then you fucking leave. You're like, okay, well, that was a waste of a day. God damn. Alex Stein is just an unfunny bully. I would unironically, I can't say that. I can't listen to him because of all the whining. He's a whiner. He's a whiner. EDP 445. Yeah, that's that guy. I won't say what that is. It's on fan here. There's been a lot of chatters who have said that he's changed their previously conservative minds on issues. Not saying that's everyone, but I think he's a lot of people's intro to leftism. I will give you that. I'll give you that in a heartbeat.
This is really interesting that Tyler says this. Like, I'm not sure. I like Tyler. I'm liking him so far, to be honest. And I don't want that to be the impression that I don't. But, like, that's the exact same thing he said about Destiny, like, 15 minutes ago, right? That he's like this pressure point into politics, and then you realize he's actually bad. Or this entry into politics, and you realize he's actually bad. Like, that's the exact same thing you just said about Destiny. Let's be real here. This is kind of a little bit of willful blindness, I think.
Never go for it. What are the calls to action? I might have answered that already. Sorry, I'm talking to Twitch chat. Destiny isn't likable is an understatement. Yeah, that's the most irritating thing. To switch the conversation slightly to Destiny, because I feel like you do have to talk about both of those guys. Otherwise, either community might get upset with you. You know what I mean? Destiny is so unlikable that I do want to find shortcomings with him that I think I could like use against him, just because it would be fun. Enjoyable as just a human being. It was just a Schadenfreude.
I mean, it's not like it's hard. Ha, your wife ran off with a twink is pretty damn effective because it sent him into a rage.
Experiencing person to take the wind out of his sails, but like, so it makes you focus extra hard on him, but he doesn't have it. There's nothing you can hit him on, and most of the things you can hit him on, he's already like kind of covered.
Ha, your wife ran off with a twink. There, that was like the easiest 5 minutes I've ever put into a job.
Up. You can do personal attacks all day, you know what I mean? And he does seem he seems especially like vulnerable to those, but like, who isn't? I don't think there's a lot of people online in the world, if they had like marriage issues or relationship issues, that if I brought those up in a negative.
Well, no, I actually think this is kind of a much more valid route to go down with Destiny, particularly because he and his wife both made their relationship and the structure of the relationship a very public political point by participating in Red Pill podcasts. Like the fact that he has these problems, and like there's a certain level of irony to the fact that you were engaged in an open marriage that falls apart while advocating for non-traditional marriage, non-traditional non-monogamous marriage relationships in a public setting is makes this a viable method to be critical of Destiny for. Like you're out here having this fight, and all of a sudden the very same things that the people like, and they're bad people, to be fair. Red pillars are bad and they're wrong, but you just handed them the greatest victory of their lives, man, because you turned your screwed up situation into a public example of what to be, and then it fell apart. That's like I think a valid criticism. And like not is it a personal attack? Kind of, sorta, but you made the personal political, and in so doing, you handed a victory to horrible people. So, get good, noob.
Like they wouldn't get fucking lit and pissed and say some crazy shit to me. So, it is what it is. As far as weaknesses go, I would say it's very telling that his biggest weakness humanizes him. Piece of shit. God damn it,
I mean, his biggest weakness humanized him up until the point when he tried to get his audience to brigade her.
Things that Destiny has done that I'll never forgive him for, nor should you. No, nor should you. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's unlikable in certain respects. He's despicable, and gross, and like weird and creepy. But as far as like,
I give up. I award this a Congressional Medal of Odd.
Like having longevity, doing what he does online effectively, and like just being in the spot where he is, kind of unassailable. Doesn't mean he's good. Maybe I'm kind of also describing like, a thing you can't chip off of the side of a plate. He's like a barnacle that's like permanently there. But as far as like most things go, he's pretty benign too, because his ability to do damage to anything is really mitigated also by his unlikability. You know what I'm saying? Most of the people that would take his worst.
I don't think you sat through 10 hours of trying to evaluate his debate performances before. The damage is severe. I may not recover. I might have a claim. I'm going to call a lawyer.
Things to heart and perform them are already the sort of bad people that are observably bad. Very strange. The fact that he made Mr. Girl's career is one of the most disgusting things he could have done. That I agree with. I actually watched that Mr. Girl thing. I watched that Mr. Girl debate conversation. I don't know. It's the most Mr. Girl content I think I've ever seen outside of, I half listened to him talking to Vosh years ago. I watched the one between Mr. Girl and President Sunday, which was pretty good. Steve Barnackley. Yeah, for real. Thanks for the sub. Oh yeah, thank you for the sub.
Mr. Barinio. I can't do a good Finkelstein. I'm not. I don't have the manic energy that Norman Finkelstein brings to everything he does in life, sometimes inappropriately.
What really gross things did he do? He like basically, I don't want to say it online. You can look it up yourself. It's true. He's kind of like a bit of a sex pest.
I will point out that it's not here. Okay, I'm gonna do the hot take thing. I think it's telling that in almost any space I've entered in this realm, there are two people I'm told to watch out for. The first one is Wick, and the second one is Mr. Girl. And I don't want to think about what the implications of that are.
He's shitty to people that he's been with, like women that have been in his life. He's bad to them. He constantly brings in people people that are fans of his or people that are in the community that like are underneath him, he'll like fuck, and then if they displease him, he'll throw them to the wayside and like make fun of them. A lot of like despicable relationship type behavior, which, you know, you can take or leave. It's one of those things where if you see like an e-girl in his orbit, like there's a very real chance he's like either groped or fucked them or like tried to, and it was like an embarrassing weird thing. Just grimy. He's definitely like a guy that shits where he eats.
Most certainly the definition of unprofessional behavior. Like one day, I promise you this, one day the flood walls are going to break and there's going to be this parade of women and we're going to know more about Destiny's dick than we ever wanted to. Like, just like we know the shape and size of Donald Trump's dick. In fact, I'm not entirely certain we don't already.
There's a point where you have to grow beyond a Hassan, Destiny, Vosh. I don't care much if y'all like any of them, but you have to grow more if this left thing is supposed to matter. True.
True. You should grow beyond Destiny, Hassan, and Vosh, and subscribe to Two Guys Talking History.
I would say, I don't know. I don't want to make any prescriptions against people's being fans of anyone. You know what? I'll say this. I would say in closing with this segment, it's perfectly fine to be still a fan of any of these people because they like meant a lot to you, or because like they introduced you to stuff. And really, I don't think any of them are so particularly awful, specifically in the content that they provide, that would be like a hard judgment against you. I don't think the like intra DGG, VGG, Hassan Cord hate, I don't think that is valuable. And I think that a lot of the people that perpetuate the we have to destroy one of these other three camps, I think a lot of them are either ops or just don't understand what they're supposed to be getting from these spaces. I don't think any of them are so dangerous that they could like derail a movement or create.
All right. I think we're going to leave it there. This last part I pretty much agree with. I don't find the particular sniping that they engage in terribly productive. It's 2 hours in. I've gone a little longer than I intended to tonight. We don't do very long streams here because I don't want to. The people who stream for 8 hours never have anything to say, and then they end up saying something incredibly, remarkably, out of pocket. And the best way to avoid doing that is to have a plan and get out while the getting's good, which is now. So I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you had fun. Go ahead, like, subscribe. It's a good time. Come back. I love repeat customers. And with that, have a good night.
Questo è il fiore del partigiano, questo è il fiore. partigiano. Una mattina mi sono alzato, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Una mattina mi sono alzato e ho trovato l'invasor. Oh partigiano, portami via, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 partigiano.